But let me tell you something. Let me give you a trick. Muhaddith Nouri narrates this. My brother was asking me, he says, what did Muhaddith Nouri were discussing on the way here? I'll tell you today. Muhaddith Nouri gives an entire story within his book. In that, one of our great scholars, he said there was a man in Shiraz. That man in Shiraz was arrested and he was put into jail. That night, this man in Shiraz said, did tawassul of the fourth Imam. He said, Mawla, for the sake of the fact that you were also a prisoner, you helped me because I have no one to help me. That night he went to sleep. As he went to sleep at night time, he sees something. He sees that Rasulullah comes in his dream. At that moment, Rasulullah gives him a philosophy. If not anything, then take this philosophy home. Believe me, it will benefit you in this world and the hereafter. For as long as you live, if you understand this philosophy, I guarantee you that nothing will harm you. Muhaddith Nouri narrates this. I'll give you that philosophy. The philosophy is this, honestly speaking, look at Shiism and see. Look at Shiism, we have everything in one tradition. Others would beg for this. And you find Muhaddith Nouri narrates it. He said, Rasulullah says something. He says, listen, my servant, if ever a worldly problem befalls you, do not take the tawassul of 3 people. Why? Because those 3 people are there for your akhirah. When you feel depressed, when there's sins in your life, when there's something blocking your dua from being answered, at that moment you go to these 3 people. Otherwise, when it comes to the umur of the dunya, you don't go to these 3 people. He says, Ya Rasulullah, who are these 3 people? Replies, he says, my sons Hassan and Hussein and my daughter Fatima. Why? They're lofty. They're far more lofty. You don't understand. You don't understand how lofty they are. To go back to the tradition, right? Today, every single marja of the Shia, with a wasta or without a wasta, goes back to one scholar. And that scholar said Ali Qadhi, teacher of Ayatollah Bahjad. I told you last year how he was born. How was he born? His father couldn't have any kids. 10 years had gone, couldn't have any kids. Just like you go to Karbala for Arba'in, what did he do? Father said Ali Qadhi goes. But he goes differently from the way we go. When he gets to the shrine of Hussein, he puts his head on the door of Hussein and he rubs the dirt in his hair and he begins to walk inside. And as he begins to walk with tears in his eyes, Ayatollah Bahjad would say, if you want to know that Hussein has accepted you to go in the shrine, look into your eyes and see. If the tears are flowing from your eyes, that means Hussein has said labbaik to you to come in. Just, Bahjad would say this. That is the milak. Today if you're sitting here, your majlis you wanted accepted, how do you do this? Look, for everything, hadith says arif and bahaqqih. For tears, there's not even one tradition that says arif and bahaqqih. Tears are that priceless. Tears come into your eyes, tears begin to drip, heart is broken, they accept it. There are people who sit in the majlis of Hussein who can see Hussein and Hussein can see them. And when Hussein sees them and when they cry and they say salam, the reply comes back. Right? This is what, if you're far away from Hussein, you know sometimes you're sitting in a majlis, your heart's broken. You feel Hussein. You feel, I wish I was there in Karbala. You know what Mawla says? He says, at that moment, give salam on my jad. Even from your heart, you can give it. You know why? Reply comes back. Tears come into your eyes, salam's been accepted. Very simple. Very simple. Sayyid Ali Qadhi, therefore, father says, he says, I went into the shrine. Now look at this. He says, I went into the shrine. Straight away, I wanted a son. Where did I go? I wasn't going to give Hussein any zahma. I went directly to Habib ibn Mawahir. Grabbed onto his shrine and said, Habib, Hussein is more loftier than that. Habib, I know that your head used to be on the door of Zahra. Give me a son. But don't give me a normal son. Give me a son who will be a hujjah. That every single alim will have to have been a student. That night Habib comes in his dream, says Hussein is more loftier. I'll give you a son. Imagine, if Habib can do that, what can Hussein do? So therefore Rasulullah says, this is the adab of asking. This is why some people go, doesn't happen. Some people go, have what? Adab of asking. You can go to Hussein, no doubt about that. But here Rasulullah says, he says, Hussein, ask for the big things. Ask for the big things. Spiritual things. But then he continues and he says, and if you're ever in prison, ask from Zayn al-Abidin. And he continues, and he continues, and he continues. He says, and if you're ill, then ask for Musa ibn Ja'far. Especially if you have eye problems. Khatib al-Baghdadi writes, Sunni scholar. He says, before the Sunni women of Baghdad would go to the doctors, the tabib, they would go to Musa ibn Ja'far. And when they went there, spiritual and physical cures were there. Then continues the tradition. It says, and if you ever want to go to a journey, and you want to be preserved in that journey you want to be preserved, whether it's on the land or it's on the sea, then take the wasila of who? Ali ibn Musa Razawi. And if ever you have a problem with the rizq, then go to the 9th Imam. And then he continues, and then he says something strange. He says, and then listen, if ever you find that you're stuck in such a way that the swords of your enemy are between your necks, at that moment call for my son the Mahdi, and you will see he'll come and defend you. But he doesn't stop there. Then he finally concludes, and then he says this, and he says, if you have an enemy and you want to seek revenge from that enemy, then call my brother Ali ibn Abi Talib, because that person, that Madhar al-Ajaib will come and he'll help you. The tradition doesn't end there, but I want to end the tradition. If I continue, you won't be able to take it. But I'll give you a small part though, and then I'll conclude. The man looks up and he says something. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I don't understand something. He said, what don't you understand? He said, if Ali takes revenge, then can I ask you a question? He says, what? He says, what about Zahra? Rasulullah, tears in his eyes, replies, says, this was the Mashiach of Allah.